welcome to my channel again. With what's been going on in Alabama, I figured I should make a video about abortion because I figure I have opinions about it. What a surprise. So I used to be a lot more pro-abortion than I am now. I used to be a lot more left-leaning. I used to be a feminist after all. But now I'm a lot more divided about it, but mostly because I get the arguments of pro-lifer and some of them sort of make sense to me. But ultimately, I am for women's right to have access to abortion by medical professional. I think it's the better thing to do. It's like the lesser of two evil. That's sort of what this is all about. But I'm still not for every argument the left use to justify abortion. Neither am I for every right-winger argument about it either, because some of them don't make sense, and you'll see what I mean as I go along. So mostly what the debate is about is essentially about two things. It's about the morality of it, whether the action in itself is moral, or it's also about whose rights should supersede the other. Is it the fetus right, the child, the baby, or whatever you want to call it? Or is it the woman's right that should supersede the fetus rights? So if we address the morality, then what's more moral? Is it preserving life that's growing in the womb? Or is it forcing a pregnancy on a woman? The argument used by pro-life people and pro-choice people both have positive and negative aspects of them, and that's really what I want to make this video about. So maybe you can have a better opinions about it. You can see more clearly into this whole debate. So pro-life's argument, the positive aspects of it is they want to prevent suffering for the child and the mother. Some babies grows in the womb, and you've probably heard a lot about it. They call it late-term abortion. They come with deficiency, like sometimes very severe. I actually had a friend whose baby didn't develop right, and it wouldn't have been viable. So she had a late-term abortion. I don't remember how late, but the baby wasn't right in any way. It wouldn't have survived. So it becomes more of euthanasia than really just an abortion. Like it's a mercy, and in Canada euthanasia is legal. It's usually for older sick people or people dying of cancer. You just want to preserve a bit of their dignity before they go. But that's what late-term abortion really is all about, or at least what it should be all about. And positive, there's also what if in the case of rapes. Like, you have to think about those things. Like, basically, when a pregnancy occurs because of a rape, it becomes a lack of consent for the woman over a pregnancy. She is forced a pregnancy. Like, shouldn't she have some right over whether she's pregnant or not? Shouldn't she choose to be pregnant or not? And there's also in the case where it's about a minor. Like, really, you want to force a pregnancy on an 11-year-old girl, 12-year-old, whatever? Like, this is a bit fucked up to me. And there's also one of the good aspects of abortion is good population control. It sounds a bit nihilistic, but that's what it is. And one of my Twitter followers put it best by saying, fewer people is good. And it's consensual population control. It's not like you're killing people. It's not like a disease that's ravaging population. It's consensual. So on the negative side, there's the biggest one is a refusal and a rejection of personal responsibility. Having sex means you consent to procreation. It's the biological function of why you have sex. Contraception isn't about rejecting this, but lowering the risk. Like, I had an argument with a Twitter person who was all about that, and she was trying to tell me, like, oh yeah, but you have sex for the pleasure of it. You have sex for like the intimacy. Yeah. Not because you have sex for intimacy means you won't get pregnant. a uterus doesn't shut down because of whatever reason you're using other than procreation. That's not how it works. That's why it's the biological function. It's procreation. And contraception doesn't prevent. It doesn't mean you're never going to be a father when you have, or a mother when you have the sex. No, it just means it's lowering considerably your probability that a pregnancy is going to occur. Like, condoms are 99% safe, but technically they're more like 80 to 90, considering that people put them on wrong sometime. But yeah, so if you use protection, it's not a refusal of responsibility of possible parenthood. It's just a lowering of the probability that this will happen. So on the negative, the biggest one, it's a termination of human life. Some people like to say it's murder, but no, fuck no. They're trying to link it to the same thing as taking like a baby, like a 2-month-old baby, and stabbing it in the heart. Like, that's murder. Like, abortion, it's not exactly the same thing. I think calling it murder, it's like blowing things way out of proportion here. But I like this terminology, this language. It's the termination of a human life. That's technically what this is all about. And another huge negative aspect, I have to read this because sometimes I write stuff and I'm like, ooh, this is so fucking good. It's a desensitization that breeds a concerning emotional detachment for the sake of female empowerment. And you see that in the slogan, my body, my choice. It's like, fuck the kid, fuck this life growing inside me. It's my choice as a woman, I decide. Like, not everything is about you. And another thing that it breeds is selfishness. This personal choice is, I want to be selfish. It's not about what the father has to say. It's not about the baby itself. It's just about what I want when I want it. And to make a little parallel, is that the right word? To make a little side story about this, I was listening to Dr. Warren Farrell, who's he's big in the men's rights movement, but he used to be a huge feminist in the 70s and the 60s, and he was beloved by all sorts of feminist organizations, especially by Now, which I don't remember what the words mean, but anyway, they loved him because he was really pro-choice, pro-women, pro everything. Like, he was a huge second wave feminist until the divorce thing started happening, the no-fault divorce, and women divorce whenever they felt like it, didn't need a reason anymore. And he noticed how it affected the children negatively, especially like in this boy crisis. He wrote the book, I think it's called Boy Crisis, and he highlights how dysfunctional boys can be when they're raised by a single mother. And in the 70s, he started to dissociate from the feminist movement because their logic was everything needs to be about women. But he was like, yeah, but what about the children? This is affecting the children. And as soon as he started saying this, they dropped his ass, because it's all about the woman, personal choice. And you see this in abortion. Like, fuck the children. It's about what the woman decide. And it's just selfish in a way. Like, I'm not saying like you should prevent women from having abortion, but you need to consider, like, are your reasons selfish? And if they are, like you're just shouting slogan, personal choice, my body, my choices. So the pro-choice is more of a leftist stance. You see that a lot with feminists. That's all about women. It is a bit of rejection of responsibility and a bit of a devaluation of human life because of it. So the pro-life argument, basically it's life as an intrinsic value that must be protected. Abortion or murder? No, they aren't. Which is way too harsh. It's termination of life. And the weakest argument is God says no. So sorry about my Twitter follower who started, putting Bible quotes and verses. I'm an atheist. God has nothing to do with this. So the biggest argument here is like life has value and it must be protected. So no religion, laws of men shouldn't be based on laws of God. Like, no. But like, if a fetus as human right is, if there's value is placed above one of a mother, then you become like you force women to do this against their will, and I think that's a bit fucked up. And you've probably also heard the quote, they're not really pro-life, they're pro-birth, because they don't give a shit about the kid after that. And you see that in that the feminist argument of stop trying to regulate women's body, or I have a right to abort as a human, and no, it's not just about you anymore. You don't own the fetus. It's not your possession. It's a distinct human being. So the pro-life argument is more of a right-wing stand with really deep religious root, an evaluation of the fetus above life of a mother. They're well intended, but application of the principle, that's where you see how it's not quite right either. And then you start to see why I'm a bit divided over this issue. So whose right just supersede the other? So on a personal note, to talk a bit about men's right, as someone who supports men's right, well, you have to acknowledge that men have no reproductive rights, and that's a bit fucked up. As an egalitarian, men should be able to do what women can do, which is opt out of being a parent. Women have this choice. If I don't want to be a parent, I don't want this responsibility, well, I can get an abortion and it's done with. Men should have similar rights. I used to really be strong that once a child is created, then it becomes just about the child. It's not about you anymore. And it sort of makes sense. It should be more about protecting the life of the child that you've become responsible for once you create it. But that's what I mean, as an egalitarian, father should be able to choose. And what I think should be happening is when the mother is pregnant, she needs to inform the father, and then he can make a conscious decision. He then choose to, want to be a father or doesn't want to be a father. If he wants to be part of the child's life, then it should be automatic 50-50 shared parenting. Unless a different agreement. Let's say the father, he's on the road a lot, he can't have 50-50, they want to agree to something else. But fuck this, I want sole custody of the child. No, shared parenting. Unless he's violent or he's beating you or whatever, and then that would be a different process. But automatic shared parenting, and it's becoming more common in Canada and in some states in the United States to be shared parenting by default. And that's where you see the protection of the children first, because we're starting to understand that child do better when they have two parents than opposed to just one. And if the guy decide he doesn't want to be a father, he want to put away his right as a father, then the woman doesn't get any money. Then she can make a conscious decision that she's on her own. When you have single mother telling you that, I do it all on my own, it's just me. No, where do you put the child when you're at work? In your pocket? No, you put it somewhere else for somebody else to take care of. You've changed from having the father being implicated to having the states being implicated. And you just give your kids to stranger, and you think that's a better idea than having the father be involved, and that makes no sense to me. So yeah, don't force men to do something you don't want women to be forced to. We think it's fucked up that we should force a woman to be a parent against their will, yet we do it to men all the fucking time. And even in the States, you have this policy where if the man can't pay up, he becomes just a deadbeat dad, and you throw his ass in jail. And that's how you see how the gynocentrism of society, it's all about helping women and supporting women and having sympathy for women. But men, fuck men. Oh, and the male pill, I can't wait for that shit. Like, it's gonna give so much more power to men. I had a nice conversation with a feminist on Twitter once. She was really big male pill. She wanted the men to own up to their responsibility because in her mind she saw it as women would have less responsibilities. And then I showed her that, well, it's not that they would have less responsibilities. It means men would be more in control of basically women's reproduction. A woman won't be able to trap a man into having a child that he doesn't want because he'll be in control of that. So I think once the male pill comes in, there'll be probably a drop in creating children. Like, why would you have a child? Like, men never had this like when the pill appeared in the 60s, it was a revolution. Women starting to have all sorts of sex, and I think men's going to be able to do the same thing. You can have sex knowing you're not going to get a woman pregnant. It's going to be all sorts of freedom and a lot more control for men, and I think that's good. So what's been going on in Alabama? You've probably seen the memes about this picture of these 22 politicians who adopted that bill. And what did all the feminists say? Oh, look at all these white men trying to control women's bodies. Like, of course feminists are going to see it as one more evidence of oppression, and they're only saying it like that because they don't see what really is the point in common with all those men. It's their fucking religion. They're not doing this because they're women and they feel the need to oppress you and your vagina. No, they're just religious people who value life to such a degree where they think abortion is wrong. But, you know, in the States, you're not big on the separation of church and state. In Canada, we're a lot more separation of church and state. There's actually in Quebec, there's a bill that they're trying to pass, and it's probably going to pass. I hope it's going to pass. It's a very strong separation of church and state to the degree where anybody who works for the state, like a teacher or nurse, cannot wear any religious garb. So no hijab, no little Jewish hat for the man, no little cross around your neck. No, we want zero promotion of religion in the public sector. And of course, all the religious people are like, oh, you're just a bunch of racists and you hate other culture and blah, blah, blah. No. Like in the 60s, we've thrown out the Catholic religion. Like in Quebec, with huge Catholic, like a big, huge French population. I was raised Catholic. But in the 60s, we've had enough of the religion, of this religion telling us how to live our life. Like, it's common for like people like my grandmother to have 12, 13, like a shit ton of kids, like dozens of kids, because the church really pushed that. Like, that's your duty as a woman, like push those kids out. But we're like, they're trying to control us, and that's not good. And that's what you see here in Alabama, trying to control people because of their religion, and that's just stupid. In Canada, in 1988, the Supreme Court decriminalize abortion, and it was done by it was a ruling rendered by 8 men and 1 woman. So fuck your argument that it's a man trying to control women, because maybe it's American men, maybe Americans are more fucked up than Canadian people, I don't know, but here not so much. So as a conclusion, as a woman, I'm glad this option exists. Because accidents do happen, and I don't mean like, oh, we had sex without protection and oh, it was an accident. That's not an accident. That's literally how it's done. An accident is more, I'm on the pill, but something went wrong with it, but he still wore a condom, but the condom broke, and I've had a friend who something like that happened to. So I'm glad there's this last option. But like any responsible woman is going to tell you the same thing. Every time they have sex, they're not scared, not anxious, but they're really concerned. They're like, okay, you know, I keep to have that in mind. And a lot of women too will, you know, you haven't seen a dick in 6 months, and then you're late on your period, and then you're like, oh my god, am I pregnant? And I'm like, no, I haven't had sex in like 6 months. Like, I'm not pregnant. But it's like this added responsibility that we have that men don't really have, unless, you know, you've had a kid and now you owe money. But Abortion isn't birth control. It's, it's a last resort after all birth control have been either ignored or they have failed. Pro-life people shouldn't use religion to make their case. That's a weak ass argument, especially to and I think this satanic church in Alabama is trying to sue this bill over the religious freedom. Oh, it's so great. And you shouldn't force a woman to carry the term. What are you gonna do? Like chain her to a bed until she pops out her kids? Like, and but on the other side, like pro-choice people, they push it way too far. Like, have some fucking decency over what you're doing. You're terminating a human life, and like women shouldn't be shamed for it. I'm not saying we should shame women, but you shouldn't, like, I've seen like article of a woman have had 7 abortions. Yay. You have women like in rallies and stuff like that, they speak to a group of people and they're like proud of their abortion. It's like it's become like a form of empowerment to say, oh, I've had an abortion. It's like it's a serious matter here. Like, have some fucking decency. And it's not something to be proud of. It's not something to be ashamed of, and it's not something you should shout out on the rooftop. Like, victim culture, man. So, like, what we should do is to lower abortion rate. First is to educate people. The more people are educated about sex and procreation, the less abortion there is. Like, oh, in abstinence class that you have in the States, what the fuck is that all about? Like, teach people what sex is all about. Like, I think in countries where they have strong sex education, there's basically no abortion. Well, I don't know. I'm not sure of the numbers, and I don't want to lie to you guys. But I know the abortion rate is a lot lower. The more people are informed, the better decisions they can make, and make contraception readily available and cheap means the more people can take them, the less pregnancies there's going to be. And I think that I saw a study the other day, like I think it was 43%. When the pill is made free, the abortion rate dropped by 43%. So look that up to see if it's true, but it sounds right. Like, make it easy for people not to get pregnant, and they won't be as pregnant. It's like, oh, so yeah, no, I forgot a little thing here.